Hey, what's up and welcome to Yoga with Rachel. So today we're talking all about yoga blocks, how we use them, why we use them, and all that good stuff. So I will be walking us through 8 different ways in which we can use yoga blocks in our everyday practice. If a yoga block is not available, feel free to find a thick book or even a similar sized object. And if those items are not available, it's all good. You can simply just watch the video to get an idea of how you can use yoga blocks in your everyday yoga practice. All right, let's get started. So before we start exploring today, I just wanted to mention that I brought 2 different yoga blocks with me to today's practice. I brought a foam one, and it's nice and light. And then the other one that I brought is cork, and it is much heavier. So I use these different blocks for different purposes, which I will get to in a moment. Now, it's also very important to note that these yoga blocks can be used at different levels. So right now they're sitting at level 1, which is the smallest level. This one would be level 2, medium level, and level 3, which would be the highest level. So you can change the height of your yoga block depending on what you are looking for or what the body perhaps needs. So if you're looking for a little bit more support, you can raise the block up a little bit higher, or even if you're looking for more of a challenge, you can raise the block up a little bit higher. So it gives you some flexibility in terms of that. So for today's practice, we're going to be staying nice and low to the ground. I will be doing a part 2 where we will be exploring how to use yoga blocks for standing postures. So definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, well, let's explore, let's experiment, shall we? Okay, so the very first posture that we will be discussing today is easy pose. So come down to a cross-legged position like what I am in. And typically the instructor would cue, to rock the pelvis forward, loop the shoulders, and tuck in the chin slightly. So say if you're in a yoga class and the instructor says, so we are going to be in the seated posture for 5 minutes. And you may be thinking to yourself, uh-oh, can I stay this lifted for that long of a time? And I have to be honest, I actually have a very difficult time doing that for such a lengthy period of time. So here is an option that you can try out. You can use a yoga block. So I'm using the soft one because that feels nicer on my bum. And I will place it underneath my bottom like so. So this allows my hips to be lifted away from the earth, creates a little bit more space in the lower half of my body, and I'm also able to sit up a little bit taller through my spine. So this is definitely a really great option, especially if the teacher says we're going to be here for a long period of time. Okay, so that is number 1. Okay, so the next posture that we will be looking at is staff pose. So come on down to the ground if you're not already there. Let's extend our legs out long in front of us. Feet are roughly hip distance apart. Flex through your feet, toes pointing towards your face. Now place your fingertips on the earth or palms on the earth. Loop your shoulders and look forward out in front of you. So right now you may be thinking, okay, I got this. But again, if you're going to be here for a long period of time, you may find that gravity wants to take over, so the back begins to round, the hip flexors begin to get a little bit sore and tender, and same with the legs. So here's another option. You can use your yoga block, again placing it underneath your bottom, coming to sit on that yoga block and then extending your legs out long. So if you do this option, I do recommend just keeping a slight micro bend in your knees, so that way we're just not locking up in our knees here. So this can actually allow you to sit up a little bit taller for a longer period of time and with a little bit more ease. And even if the instructor says to you, okay, now we're gonna fold on down, so we inhale, send our hands up towards the sky, and then exhale, melting our upper body towards our thighs, we can still do that seated on our yoga block. Okay, that was number 2. So I also like to use yoga blocks for any movements or postures that involve the core. So we're going to try out a modified boat pose first without using the yoga block, just to compare and contrast. So come on down to the ground, soles of the feet planted on the earth, knees pointing on up towards the sky. Place your hands at the backs of your legs here, loop your shoulders, look forward, breathe in. And then on your exhale, begin to lean back, keeping length in your back body, toes still kissing the earth. Breathe in here. And then on an exhale, lifting your feet away from the earth, bring your shins roughly parallel to the sky, and then allow your hands to reach forward, really reaching towards the top edge of your mat here. So I find that I get a little bit more shaky if I do not have support in between my thighs here. So therefore I use a yoga block. So if you have one or whatever item you brought with you, let's place it between our thighs and really squeeze that block. And let's just make our way back into that modified boat pose. So whenever you're ready, you can check it on out. See if you notice any differences. Perhaps you notice a little bit more of an engagement happening in the low core. Perhaps you feel a little bit more steady and stable here. Again, everyone's experience will be different, so just acknowledge that. All right, that was number 3. Okay, so now we are going to explore a posture that is perhaps one of my favorites, butterfly pose. So let's bring the soles of our feet together, nice and flush together, knees wide. Now in terms of the distance between your heels and your body, you can definitely bring them in a little bit closer if that feels right, or you can keep some space here. Totally up to you. Just explore, stay open, stay curious. Okay, so in terms of how we can use the blocks, so we can actually place the blocks right underneath our legs, so right where our knees are, to really help raise the earth up to meet us in this posture. This just creates a little bit more ease and support, and we're still working on developing flexibility in the lower half of our body. So this is definitely an option that you can explore and just play around with. So that was number 4. So for our next posture, we're going to be taking a look at extended child's pose. So this posture is really known for being a restorative posture. However, I've had so many conversations with students or fellow yogis, and they have expressed that they do not find this posture very relaxing or restorative. So then I just started to play around with some props to try to see how I can create more support and ease in this pose. So I have my soft yoga block over here because that will feel nice and soft on my head. So come on down to the ground. You can get your yoga block or your item. Bring your big toes to touch, knees nice and wide. So begin to walk your hands forward out in front of you towards the top edge of your mat, and then sit back onto your heels, or at least towards your heels. Okay, breathe in to look forward out in front of you, and then on an exhale, begin to melt your chest, your forearms towards the earth, and then last to release to or towards the yoga block is your head, your forehead. So this is a really great way to raise the earth up to meet you. If you would like, you can even massage the brow bone by rocking the head from side to side. So say if you're looking for a little bit more of a lift, you can actually bring your yoga block up to the medium level and then rest your forehead on the yoga block. However, what ends up happening is that your forearms then lift away from the earth as well. So just allow that to happen, as that will be a little bit nicer on your shoulders and your upper body. Okay, so that was number 5. So the next movement that we'll be exploring is called bird dog. So let's explore this without using a yoga block, again, so that way we can compare and contrast with using one versus without using one. Okay, so let's come to our hands and knees on all fours. Stack your wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hip points. Spread your fingers nice and wide, pressing on into those fingertips. Press into the tops of your feet as you rock your pelvis forward slightly to create a little bit of length in the back body, looking directly down at your mat. So on your next breath in, let's reach our right hand out in front of us. Imagine that you're shaking someone's hand as you send and kick your left foot back and behind you, toes curled under. Breathe in here. And then on your exhale, pressing into the top of your right foot as we lift our back leg away from the earth. So that left foot away from the earth, hovering here. Now, without having a block on my back, my foot can go really high, and the low back starts to arch and it really gets involved there. So let's just come out of that for a moment. So say if I wanted to really help level out my hips, so that way I am isolating where I want the movement to take place, I can use a yoga block as a feedback tool to help me do so, and to also add a little bit more of a challenge to that workout. Okay, so this is where we take our yoga block, and I recommend using something a little bit heavier so that way you can actually feel it on your back. The lighter one may just fall off your back, or you may just not feel it at all on there. So we're going to take the yoga block, place it on your low back, and we're going to make our way to all fours once again. This time we're just going to check it out on the other side. So on an inhale, we send our left hand out in front of us and send our right foot back and behind us, toes curled under. Breathe in. And then on an exhale, pressing into the top of your left foot now for balance and stability, let's lift and hover that right foot away from the earth. Dial your toes down to try to level out the hips a little bit. Keeping that leg nice and straight, pressing that foot into an imaginary wall. And sure, I could probably get higher and higher than this, but if I do, the yoga block may fall off my back, or it may get a little bit wobbly. So it does act as a feedback tool there. Also, if you are looking for a little bit more of a challenge, you can always place it on the medium height and even on the highest height while doing that movement. And I have to tell you, it is challenging, and if the yoga block does fall off, just pick it on up and try again. Okay, so that was number 6. Okay, so for this next movement, find a wall, place your back flush up against the wall here, extend your legs out long in front of you, and you can place your yoga block to the side of your left leg to start. Place your hands at your sides, and as we go through this movement, I'm going to encourage us to try to keep our back as still as possible because the back may want to get involved to help out. Okay, on an inhale, let's lift and hover our left foot away from the earth, and then we move it over top of our yoga block and then back over to start, but we still have our leg hovering away from the earth. So perhaps you try this 5 times on one side, and then you take it on over to the other side, and then try it 5 times to start. And then of course, if you are seeking a little bit more of a challenge, you can always change the height of the yoga block. So now it's at medium height, just hovering it over, and even the highest height, and we'll see how this one goes. Ooh, see, my back wants to get involved with that one. So you may experience a little bit of cramping in the hip flexors or even in the thighs as you do this, but this movement is really great, especially if you want to progress into certain postures such as boat pose or even any kind of really forward fold or hip hinging posture, because it really helps to strengthen the hip flexors. So it's definitely a good one to incorporate into your everyday exercise routine. Okay, so that was number 7. Okie doke, so we have made it to our final posture for today, and it will be a restorative one. So have your yoga block close by because we're going to lay on our backs. And when you arrive there, place the soles of your feet on the earth, knees pointing on up towards the sky. Your feet will be roughly hip distance apart. So just as if you were entering a bridge pose, we're going to lift our hips away from the earth and then grab your yoga block and place it roughly where your sacrum is. So this is above the tailbone, near the base of the spine. So I know, sorry, this is not gonna be like the prettiest of language, but I like to place it right above my bum crack. That's where I get the most ease and support, but of course everyone's body is different, so make the adjustment as needed. Okay, so this posture is really great for alleviating low back pain. While you're here, you can experiment with lifting one foot away from the earth, just checking it on out, maybe the other, or perhaps even both. Again, you can place your hands at your sides here just to support you if you choose to do so. Or you can just simply find a little swaying action with the knees from side to side, and this really helps massage that low back body. And you can just breathe here. You can probably stay here as long as you really would like to as well, just something to keep in mind. Okay, so my friends, that was number 8. Okay friends, so I hope that you learned something useful today, that you're taking something away from this practice. There are so many different ways in which we can use the yoga blocks to really help support our own personal practice. So if you haven't done so already, kindly subscribe to Yoga with Rachel, as it is the best way to support free yoga content for all. Ring that notification bell to be notified of new video uploads to the channel. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's practice, and please share this video with someone that you believe would benefit from this workshop. Thank you so very much for joining me here today. For sure, leave those comments and questions. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.